The Basic Education Minister, Siviwe Gwarube, has written to National Treasury requesting an investigation into a textbook tender worth around 1.6 billion rand. According to media reports, a newly registered publishing company with no prior experience was awarded the largest share of that contract. Let's pick up the conversation with the Minister who joins us now, Minister Siviwe Gwarube, Minister of Basic Education. Good evening to you, Minister, and thank you for your time. What are the circumstances around the awarding of this contract to, well, it's 1.6 billion rand, but a large portion of it going to a company known as Lighthouse Publishing?
Good evening to listeners and good evening to your viewers. These are the questions that require responses and that that have prompted me to approach National Treasury for the Chief Procurement Officer to essentially look at the procurement process. And I want to be able to just take a quick step back here to Lasizwe, just to perhaps remind the viewers at home of what is expected of us by law. The PFMA is very quite clear that ministers, politicians should not be involved in any way on procurement matters, and that procurement matters are squarely in the realm and the ambit of accounting officers in the department. However, when things do go wrong in those procurement processes, because of course part of the reason why that act exists is because there were times where politicians were manipulating procurement processes for their own good. And so now that divide exists for a reason. However, where there's an irregularity that is picked up, the PFMA expects me to effectively exercise oversight on that process. So immediately when I was made aware that there are these allegations that have come to light, I immediately contacted the Minister of Finance. And the reason why, and people asking, why not the SIU, why not the Hawks? The reason why is because I don't sit in procurement processes, but the Chief Procurement Officer in the side Treasury will be able to analyze the entire bidding process and be able to assure us, yes, there's been irregularity. No, there hasn't been any irregularity, which then informs my next steps. So while I can't essentially go into the details of the case of the particular companies that are involved, that is the process that we are following.
I understand that you're saying you can't go into the details, but the details are important, aren't they? Because they symbolize the red flags. Talk to me, for example, about what we know about when this company, Lighthouse Publishers, was registered in relation to the bid specification and other tender processes.
Again, Lasizwe, my worry with going into the merits of this case is that I would be essentially overstepping a process that does not belong to me, because I would not have sat in on those bid committees. I would not have even known the companies that have been selected to be the ones that are providing our learners the material. Mine is to make sure that when there's wrongdoing in the department, that I'm unapologetic about saying people must be held accountable. And I just want to add this, that no organization is beyond reproach to Lasizwe. But the difference comes is that when you do find wrongdoing, does the executive authority act or do they sit on those allegations? And for me, that's the key difference. And I would like to really limit my comments on the procurement process, which is what I've written to Minister Godongwana about.
So let's see how much of the other detail then you can go into. When was this contract awarded?
I wouldn't be able to tell you those details once again, to Lasizwe, because the details that I can give you is that there were allegations that a contractor was awarded and that it was dubious and that the details were unclear. And as soon as that became the case, I called Minister Godongwana to say, what are the powers here for Treasury? Because I'm not sure whether or not these allegations that are found in News 24 are true or not. And he assured me that the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer would be able to do that for me and advise me.
I guess the reason I ask is to determine whether it was during your tenure in office and how that lives up with your promises and your organization's promises of clean governance. And I think that's where I was trying to take you bit by bit. So account for that bit then. Did it occur during your tenure? And if so, Where were the guardrails that you promised?
Yeah, it did. This process started in 2024 when we set out the catalog, the changing of the catalog. In fact, when we got a whistleblower initially in the process who flagged some wrongdoing and some irregularities, I immediately instructed the Director General at the time to halt the process and essentially undertake a forensic investigation. That forensic investigation was done, and it was inconclusive whether or not there were any corruption that was found in the process. It was on that basis then that the process continued. However, now, once again, I'm receiving allegations that there is something untoward here. And once again, I am acting to say, based on those things, I need to find out whether or not we are compliant with the law. The question you ask about, what about your guardrails? What about your promises? The difference here, Tula Sizwe, is that one, I'm not implicated in this irregularity. Number two, it took me 2 hours to make sure that I act so that people can be held accountable as quickly as possible. Number three, my biggest obsession is to make sure that those textbooks reach children at the right time at the beginning of the school year in 2027. That's the difference that I think would set me apart from some people who would have either been implicated themselves or sat and did nothing when the organization is found wanting in this instance.
So were the textbooks in fact delivered or not?
That would have followed later. This is for a catalog for 2027.
When we spoke about the DA being just as corrupt as the ANC, people thought that we were mad or were defending the ANC, while actually what we were doing was to expose that the DA is just as corrupt, but the difference it is that the DA, it is protected by the mainstream media, because the mainstream media, it is owned and controlled by the white monopoly capital. And the Democratic Alliance, it is a political party or a political praxis of the white monopoly capital. That's what we spoke about. So the DA minister, Siviwe Gwarube, who is a minister of basic education, is under fire over a 1.6 billion rands tender controversy. Right? South Africans, a storm is brewing in the Department of Education. Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Gwarube, is now facing serious scrutiny over what is being described in some circles as a 1.6 billion rands tender controversy. But the big question is this corruption? Is this political sabotage? Or is this just another case of government mismanagement? Today we break it all down, because if this is true, it affects millions of learners across the Republic of South Africa. Who is Siviwe Gwarube? Before we get into the controversy, let us understand who we are dealing with. Siviwe Gwarube is a senior leader in the Democratic Alliance and currently serves as the Minister of Basic Education. She came into office promising accountability, clean governance, and fixing South African broken education system. But we are seeing the contrary to that. Many saw her as a fresh face, someone who will do things differently. But now her name is being dragged into a tender-related storm, the same outcry that people have been crying about when it comes to the African National Congress. The 1.6 billion tender controversy. According to emerging reports and public discussion, questions are being raised around a tender valued at approximately 1.6 billion rands linked to the Department of Education. Now let us be clear. These are allegations and concerns, not proven facts. The controversy centers around how the tender was awarded, who benefited from it, and whether the proper procurement process were followed. And what is worse is that the people that the tender has been awarded to, it's a company that was established 3 days after the tender went out. So critics are asking, and correctly so, was the process transparent? Were rules followed? Or was there political influence involved? And most importantly, who is accountable? Because 1.6 billion rands is not small change. That is money meant for schools, infrastructure, learning materials, and the future of South African children. So why does this matter? Let us bring this closer to home. South Africa's education system is already struggling. Overcrowded classrooms, pit toilets still existing, lack of textbooks, poor infrastructure in rural areas. Now imagine 1.6 billion rands potentially being mismanaged or irregularly handled. That's not just a scandal. That's a direct attack on the future of our children. Every cent lost in corruption or irregular spending, fewer opportunities for learners, deeper inequality, and a weaker country. This is why South Africans are reacting the way that they are reacting, and South Africans are justified to react the way that they are reacting. It's quite important, okay? So, what are the political implications of this? The situation also has a serious political consequences. The Democratic Alliance has built its reputation on false claims of clean governance, anti-corruption, and accountability. But with each passing day, we are seeing the real Democratic Alliance. Thank you guys for tuning in. My name is Tebos Kosana. The name of the platform is IZWI LABANSUNDU, the voice for Africans. Kama Africa.